Okay, and welcome back to chapter 13 of Better Off Friends by Elizabeth Eulberg. And the last one was very long, probably like an hour, I think. So I think this isn't as bad, but it's still pretty long. So let's just hope this is not as long as the other ones. Anyway, got a little bit more of this book, so let's try to finish this thing. You can listen to it anytime you want to. So, yeah, let's start this. Chapter 13. I was shocked at first by the unexpected group of people cheering "Surprise!" and the evening got even more surreal from there. Dad came over and gave me a big hug, followed by Uncle Adam. Dad beamed. "Here I thought you were too smart for your old pops to get you." I looked around and that's an awful dad voice. Okay. I looked around and saw about 50 people from all over my life. Whoa! There's mostly people from school surrounded by some family members, and a few of my cooking class friends. It wasn't hard to pick out who was for Levi and who was for me. It was like this one wedding I went to this summer before. Mom's friend from college was marrying a guy Mom didn't approve of. Everybody on Suzanne's side was dressed in suits or dresses. The groom's side was completely different. I heard Mom tisk a few times about as people walked and dressed in khakis and jeans. Some even had jorts on. "Who wears jeans to a wedding?" Mom had asked under her breath. I shrugged. I was only 10 at the time, so I didn't have that great an answer. 6 years later, I still hadn't had the answer for a lot of things. Levi went over to the jock contingent. It was then I noticed Emily was there. I was pretty sure Levi's mom wouldn't have invited her. I scanned back in my head to see if I'd ever officially told my dad we weren't really friends anymore. She hadn't been to her house in years. Emily gave me a little wave and approached cautiously. "Happy birthday, McAllen." "Thanks," I said as we embraced uncomfortably. "Great party," she said as she scanned the room. "Yeah, it was a great party. Anyway, I know it's been a while, but it's a big day, so I got you a little something." Emily handed me a small wrap box. "Oh, you shouldn't have," I protested. She shrugged in response. I don't know if I was supposed to wait to open presents, but since I hadn't even known this party was happening, I figured I could be excused for not following protocol. I slowly unwrapped the box to find a silver necklace with a delicate flower pendant. "It'll go with pretty much anything," Emily offered. "Thanks so much." I wear my necklaces like... Oh, it's not on now. I wear my necklaces pretty much 24/7, though. I sleep with them on. I'm weird. "Thanks so much." Emily knew I was awful at accessorizing. It was a gene that wasn't passed on to me. I unlatched the necklace and put it around my neck. "Here, let me help." I held up my hair as Emily latched the necklace. It fell right in the middle of the scoop neck shirt that I was wearing. "Perfect," she declared. I gave Emily a grateful smile. She was looking out for my girly well-being even though we were no longer close. We looked at each other, neither of us really knowing what to do now. It was so odd to be standing across from somebody who would be my best friend for nearly a decade, and yet having nothing to talk about. I couldn't help but wonder if that was what was going to happen with me and Levi. We already didn't speak to each other. I looked across and saw him laughing away with his friends. My anger at Levi wasn't that he had friends. It was that he'd filled my head with thoughts of love, then took it away from me. I tried to guard myself from getting hurt. It was an automatic reflex, but I'd let Levi in as a friend, then as a best friend. By the time I landed in Chicago, I'd been ready to open my heart fully to him, to love him the way I thought he loved me. But then he'd taken it away. It was torture to be around him those first few days back. My attention was brought back to the party as our parents were asking for everybody's attention at the front of the room. Dread filled me, because I knew something embarrassing would probably come next. "Okay, everybody." Dad was clinking a glass with a fork. A sharp whistle came from Uncle Adam and the place quieted down. "Thanks so much for coming tonight, and for keeping our little secret." There was some laughter in the audience. "Can the birthday girl and boy come on up here?" Awkward. Levi and I came from opposite ends of the room and were greeted by polite applause and some catcalling from the jock group. I don't know if, how long Levi's birthday was after this, and when McAllen's birthday is. But, yeah. Well, Mrs. Rogers looked so happy. I have to say that I was convinced Levi was on to me. He was being really nosy and asking me so many questions. What should have all what should always be a concern for what should always be a concern for what should always be a cause for concern, Dr. Rogers interjected as he put his arm around Levi's shoulder. Seeing Levi and his dad standing next to each other made me realize how much they looked alike, except for his dad's dark hair. Levi's posture was stiff, and he didn't look that amused, but then a slow smile started to spread on his face as his dad began to jostle him. Mrs. Rogers got back control of the room. Bruce and I can't begin to express how much McCallum has been to us, as well as Bill and Adam. They are so welcome to us at West Coasters and really brought us into their family. She came over and grabbed my hand. I'm so grateful. Oh, this is a woman. She came over and grabbed my hand. I'm so grateful that Levi had such a generous, caring best friend. Sorry that it was a man voice before. Just ignore that. I glanced over at Levi, but his eyes were aimed at the floor. Maybe this was what we really needed to get everything back how it used to be between us. Everything she was saying was true, especially about me being generous and caring. She missed humble. I had been distant when I got back, mostly to try to adjust to the new reality that was waiting for me. Then Levi threw those hurtful words and accusations at me the day in my kitchen. I was convinced he was going to come back and apologize, but he left. I wanted my old Levi back, even if it was only as friends. The way he lashed out at me realized how delicate our relationship was, but he was too important to me. Such a huge part of my life. I'd take him any way I could. Sure, there would have always been something unspoken between us, an attraction we couldn't act on. But would a high school romance really be worth sacrificing our friendship? No, we were better off friends. The name of the book. Okay. I kept waiting all night. Through the speeches and roasting, the singing and cake, through the dancing and presents, I was poised expectantly for Levi to come over to me and make everything right. But I was waiting for an apology that would never come. I don't know what compelled me to go to the last football game of the season. Uncle Adam was more than happy to join me in the bleachers. He went to every high school game, proudly wearing his orange and blue. That's more original. Yeah, orange and blue, go. My excuse that evening was that I was going to root for Danielle in the marching band. I even waved a few times at Emily down on the field as she cheered. Yay. Marching band. Cheerleaders, woo. That was my excuse. Truthfully, I wanted to be there in case Levi finally got a chance to play. It wasn't that he was bad, it was only that the wide receivers on the team who got playing time were all seniors, and very, very good. I didn't know how much longer my loyalty to Levi would last. We had hardly spoken since the party. We passed each other in the hallways, and he'd do that chin thing that lets the person know you're acknowledging her, but not the chin thing. Yeah. I was doing that then? Yeah. The chin thing. Okay. We'd pass each other in the hallways, and he'd do that chin thing that he lets the person know you're acknowledging her, but not so much as to grant her the pleasure of uttering a proper hello. I tried to let it not get to me, but I got more hurt with each passing day. I sometimes thought it'd be best to let it go and move on. I'd already survived the demise of one close friendship. I'd survived a lot worse than losing a friend. But there was still a part of me that held out hope. Come on, guys, Adam yelled as the other team scored a touchdown, pulling them ahead 10-7. There was less than 2 minutes left in the game. I knew that Levi wouldn't get any playing time with the score that close. We watched as the time slowly dwindled on the scoreboard until only 30 seconds left. I started to fold the blanket I had in my lap, getting ready to head for the exit. My attention was drawn back to the field as whistles began to blow. There was some commotion going on and flags being tossed. Did someone get hurt? What's going on? Yeah, I was right, sorry. What's going on, I asked. Adam surveyed the scene. Interference or someone's hurt. Oh, interference. As the bodies slowly started to break away from the pile on the field, one player remained. He was on his back and grabbing his knee. I don't do sports and I think that football's stupid. Sorry, football fans. It just looks so dangerous and people get so hurt. Anyway, ignore me. The entire place was silent as the coach and the team trainer ran out and assessed the situation. The players stood by in a vigil-like way, all probably worried about their teammate and also unnerved by the reminder of how fragile our bodies could be. The crowd started to applaud as the player began to limp off the field, one arm over the trainer. Hey, that was Kyle Jankowski, Adam said as he clapped louder. Poor Kyle, I thought. Then it registered that Kyle was one of the wide receivers. I looked over and caught Mr. Rogers' eye. Mrs. Rogers' eye. I didn't know if it was appropriate to be hopeful that Levi would get pulled in at the expense of another player's health, but that was exactly what happened. Levi started to jog out into the field. "Go, Levi!" Adam shouted loudly and patted me on the back. I felt my heart beat faster, but I sure was nothing compared to what Levi was going through. The team lined up and the ball was snapped to Jacob Thomas, the quarterback. He moved back and surveyed the players making their way down the field. Jacob always had more time than most quarterbacks in the district because Keith was his left tackle. No opposing player really had a chance of getting him with Keith blocking. No opposing player really had a chance of getting to him with Keith blocking. Jacob threw the ball long down the field. I held my breath, conflicted about whether I wanted the ball to be thrown to Levi or not. Well, I wanted him to score. I also didn't want him to drop this ball and be accounted for a loss. Even though I always thought it was unfair that one player was either applauded or vilified if they scored or didn't in the last seconds of the game, the other players of the team were responsible for their getting in to that moment. One player does not a team or victory make. What? It was an incomplete pass. The team quickly scrambled near the 40-yard line. There were less than 20 seconds on the clock. The ball snapped. Jacob kept shuffling back, looking for an opening. We were at 15 seconds. The crowd was on its feet. The ball sailed through the air. It was headed straight to Levi, who was running fast toward the end zone. I swear time stood still for those few seconds. The entire place was silent. Everybody's eyes were following the ball's trajectory. Levi held his arms out, his focus clear. He jumped up slightly and caught the ball. He hesitated for a second, probably shocked that the ball was safe in his arms. He turned around and sprinted to the end zone. The stands erupted in applause while the remaining players arrived in the end zone to celebrate their victory. Adam and I hugged each other. Okay, ended. Okay. I don't get football very well. The stands erupted in applause while the remaining players arrived at the end zone to celebrate their victory. Adam and I hugged each other. We hugged the people next to us. I made my way over to Levi's mom and dad. "That was amazing," I said as Dr. Rogers picked me up. Celebrating with Levi's parents felt right. They were like my family. That hadn't changed. I knew we'd get back to the place we once were. You don't just toss family aside. I glanced down at the field. Stacy ran over with the other cheerleaders and joined in the commotion. He quickly kissed her before the team hoisted him up. Levi was beaming. This was all he ever wanted, to be part of the team, one of the guys. The elation I felt quickly evaporated. While I knew I should be happy for him, I had to face the truth. I knew right then that I had lost him for good. It's truly amazing that winning a game It's truly amazing what winning a game can do for someone's confidence or ego. I texted Levi after the game on Friday to congratulate him and never heard back. I saw him in the parking lot at school that Monday morning, gave him a wave, but he was too busy being the athletic stud he'd always dreamed of to notice me. The entire school kept talking about it as if we'd never won a football game before. Nobody seemed to remember that it had been an extremely boring game for the first 3 quarters. Apparently, the last 20 seconds were the only thing that mattered. Had the play happened with 2 minutes left, we would have already moved on to something else. And yes, I was being a horrible friend for not being more excited for Levi. But were we even friends anymore? We hadn't talked in weeks. He had bigger and in no way better people to spend his time with. My annoyance was at an all-time high when I turned the corner on my way from English to see Levi walking with Tim and Keith. They had on their leather jackets and walked down the hallway with that athletic air of superiority that I never quite understood. Yeah, because, in a few years, you dogs are not going to be that popular. Just saying. Not all of them, but it just happens. So you can throw a ball or hit a ball or do something with the ball rather well. That entitles you to some kind of hero worship. I agree. The band kids with their musical talent didn't rock around like we should all feel lucky to be graced with their presence. Oh, thank you, Michaela. Thank you, author. I reminded myself that only a small percentage of their team would end up playing sports in college, and an even smaller percentage would go on to become professional athletes, egomaniacs, if any at all. So at most, Keith would sit around 20 years from now, fat and balding, recounting the glory days of his high school athletic career. Right, most of the time. I wanted to believe, at least hope, that my best years were ahead of me. It would be too depressing to fathom it if high school was as good as it got. "Hey, McAllen," Keith sang out to me. I grimaced as I passed by. "Oh, it must be someone's time of the month," Keith snickered. "You've got to have that marked on your calendar, right, California? Can't imagine you want to be near her when that hits. First, you. Second, was that the best Keith could come up with for reason to not be pleased as Punch to talk to him? It couldn't be that he was a complete tool, so it must be a womanly function. I stopped in the hallway. I should have ignored him and kept going, but I wasn't in the mood for this crap today. His crap today. "Is that the best you got?" I spat out. The three of them stopped, and all of them turned around except Levi, who muttered something about ignoring me. Keith smirked at me. "Oh, I've got much more, but I don't think you could handle it." Keith was used to getting what he wanted, and in that moment I wanted to get under his skin, to have someone else feel dejected for a change. "Believe me, Keith, I'm sure I can handle it just fine, since you apparently only know about women from what you find out in health class, so try me." Tim did that things guys do when they try to one-up each other. She did not just say that. He was laughing. Levi remained motionless. Keith was not amused. "Honestly, McCallum, I've so got you outnumbered in terms of intelligence." That was laughable. Seeing his smug face infuriated me so much. He'd taken Levi away from me, and I wasn't going to be so easy on him this time. I leaned in toward me. "You do know that a D on a paper is not for a dope job, yo, right?" Keith sized me up, and then a smile slowly spread across his face, like he knew he'd gotten me. But there was no way Keith was going to get me, as a date, in an argument, ever. "Well, yeah," then he slowed his voice. I'm not part retard." I was stunned for a second. I walked a few steps closer. Levi took a few steps back. "Excuse me, would you care to repeat that?" I was convinced that even Keith wouldn't stoop so low. He bent his arms up toward his collarbone and let his wrists go limp as his hands were dangling. He collapsed his legs together at the knees and started to walk like he had a disability. "I don't know, can I? What's repeat mean?" Before I could understand my movements, I pushed Keith hard. He stepped back a few inches. Then he laughed, which angered me more. Levi grabbed my arm. "Calm down." I shoved him away. "No, I will not calm down. And how are you going to stand here like that when he's making fun of my uncle, who, need I remind you, has been nothing but kind to you? Has never said a bad word about anybody, who certainly would never be so cruel as to make fun of somebody." My voice started to crack. I could feel my entire body start to shake. God, Keith looked shocked at my behavior. "I'm sorry, McCallum. I thought you could take a joke." "Do you find this funny?" I asked, my voice hard. I didn't want to cry in front of Keith. I could not let him know that he had gotten to me. He's so pathetic. I can't wait to see you in 10 years when the reality of life outside these walls hits you. His face became as hard as my voice. "You think you're so tough and above it all, don't you? But guess what? Just because your mom's dead doesn't mean you can be such a bitch." A rage I could not describe, one that I hadn't felt in years, overtook my body. Even though I could see that the second these words left his mouth, he regretted them. It was too little, too late. Keith could say what he wanted about me, but how dare he bring up my mom? I wanted to shut him up, and I did that the only way I knew how. He wasn't lucky like Levi, to get a kiss. It wasn't lucky like Levi to get a kiss from me. Instead, I tightened up my fist and hit him right in the kisser. Keith, Mr. Athlete Extraordinaire, was knocked onto his bed. I towered over him. "You say one more word to me ever again about my family, and I will not be so gentle." I turned on my heel and came face to face with Mr. Matthews, the gym teacher. "Miss Dietz, I think you need to come to the office, and that goes for you gentlemen as well." "She attacked me," Keith cried out. "That's enough, Mr. Simon," Mr. Matthews stepped in between us. "Don't think I didn't hear what you were saying." The four of us followed Mr. Matthews to the office. Oh God, just teachers. Okay. I was put in a separate room from them. I knew I was in trouble. I knew my flawless school record was in jeopardy, but I didn't care. I was angry. I was mad at the world, and why I shouldn't have been. I'd had the most important thing taken away from me without explanation. There were times where I was able to be strong, many instances where I could pretend that everything was fine, but sometimes a girl just needs her mother. Oh, there's more. The wait in the principal's office felt like forever. I had the entire time to reevaluate how I acted. I remembered how once in first grade I'd been mad at this fourth grade boy who'd always tease me during recess. He called me names and sometimes threw sticks at me. I finally told Mom about it. I said that I hated him and I wanted to punch him in the face. Mom said I should never hit anybody because violence was never the answer. That hitting someone showed that you cared, and you should never give someone that kind of power over you. But it wasn't Keith I was mad at or cared about. The door finally opened and I saw my father. I felt so guilty for having to bring him in. I never wanted to be responsible for one of those calls. "Hey, Callie," Dad said softly to me. He only called me this when he was worried about his baby girl. Principal Lockmere motioned for him to sit down. I couldn't even look at my father, and I was so horrified by my behavior. "Well, I filled in your father about what happened. It seems that Levi's and Tim's stories matched. Keith's seemed to be a bit more dramatic." Principal Bookmer pursed his lips, like she was holding in a laugh. While I understand you were provoked, what Keith said, though was unfortunate, did not warrant your response. We have a very tough policy of violence of any kind, and you did hit him, so you'll be suspended for the rest of the week and have after-school detention for 2 weeks. If there are no more incidents, this will not go on your college transcripts. School is annoying. Yeah. I was shocked and relieved. Thanksgiving was this week, so I was only going to miss 2 days, and there was a chance it wouldn't totally mess up my record. I quickly got up and followed Dad out of school. He stayed silent on the car ride home. I looked down at my sore, slightly red right hand. I quickly got up and followed Dad out of school. He stayed silent on the car ride home. I looked down at my sore, slightly red right hand. Sorry, I repeated that. I had to pause for a second. The car stopped and Dad shut off the engine. I looked up and found us in the Culver's parking lot. "What?" I mumbled. Dad turned to me, tears in his eyes. "I can't say that was a fun call to get, McCallum." But then I heard that both Principal Buckmere and Levi. Then I heard from both Principal Buckmere and Levi about what happened, and well, your mother was one of the sweetest people on earth. She wouldn't have hurt a fly. Tears began to swell up in my eyes. I let my father down, and worse, I let my mother down. But, he put his hand in mine, she would never have tolerated anybody talking crap about her family. That would not go over well. Your mother would have done the same thing, sweetheart. You reminded me more and more of her every day. And while I might not be able to help you with everything she could, I'm so proud of you. She would have been too." "Really?" Tears were coming out harder now. "Of course." Dad held onto my hand tightly. "And I know she's looking down on you right now, probably laughing a little and wishing she could be here with you. She'd want me to treat you to some custard for being strong and standing up for your uncle and for yourself." I pictured Mom as Dad described her. I knew he was right. She'd never tolerated anybody treating Adam differently. One of the things Dad said he loved most about her when they first started dating was that she never babied Adam. She treated his younger brother like everybody else. She certainly wouldn't have allowed anybody to speak to him or me that way. "Is that a smile I'm seeing?" Dad asked. I nodded. "You're right. I know Mom would be proud. She'd be proud of both of us, Dad." He seemed surprised about my confession, but I wasn't the only person who'd lost somebody. "Let's go get some custard." "I'm so sorry, McCallum. You know how awfully I feel about what happened. I should have stepped in. I should have punched him in the face. Can't believe I acted like such a wimp. It really is a miracle you ever talked to me again, and I'm grateful that I'd never had to experience your right hook. I'm so sorry. I know I shouldn't joke about that. I'm such an idiot. Blimey, if I didn't deserve a punch in the face. I'm so sorry. Moving on. Into chapter 14. Wasting my day. Oh well. Nothing else to do right now. Well, chapter 14. I needed to clear my... I think this one is not as long, so... Chapter 14. I needed to clear my head. So I did the only thing I could think of to make me feel better. Run. Yeah. Since football season was over, I didn't have to worry about running too long and burning off extra calories, or have to think about keeping my weight up, or think about anything. I only had to run. I'll admit that catching that ball and hearing the cheering was amazing. I understand how people can get caught up in moments like that. How you want to keep reliving one small fraction of time when you felt invincible. You want to keep reliving one small fraction of time when you felt invincible. My dad had this friend who always makes him tell. I keep repeating myself. My dad has this friend who always makes him tell the story about a baseball game from back in high school. Every time the guy's over, he tells it, and we sit there like we hadn't heard it a million times before. I thought it was pathetic how you could look back on something so insignificant as one game, one play, and think that was the greatest moment in your life. But then I totally got it. I was the man, the hero, the MVP, and all I had to do was catch a ball, one that Jacob threw with precision. I know how to say this word. Jeez, okay. Precision. I'm just going with that. I forget. Yeah. Did he get the credit he deserved? Not as much as I did. There I was on a total ego high when McCallum had to come in and crash the party. I can't remember if I've read this. I'm so bad. There I was on a total ego high when McCallum had to come in and crash the party. I probably did. And what did the man, the hero, the MVP do? He stood there terrified and did nothing. Nothing. I had to account what happened not only to the principal, but to McCallum's dad. He looked so upset when he arrived at school, then had to listen to me tell how brave his daughter had been. Well, I just stood there. I had to tell him all the awful things Keith had said. Well, I just stood there. I'd never felt more like a loser in my life. Before I really knew where I was running to, I ended up at Riverside Park. I'd been running so hard, I could see my breath come out in short spurts. I walked a bit to cool down, even though the cold weather was already helping with that. I normally didn't run that hard when it was early winter, but I needed to get some distance from what had happened the day before. I began to walk forward to the swings, then I noticed someone stretching, one out over by the picnic tables. I abruptly stopped when I realized it was McCallum. She had her right leg up on the table and was bending over to stretch out her hamstrings. Confusion swirled around whether I should approach her or walk away before she saw me. I stepped forward. It was about time I started acting like the stud I'd been pretending to be for the past week, or more accurately, past few months. "Hey," I called out to her. She spun around quickly. "Oh, hey." She paused for a second before continuing to stretch. "Are you just starting?" "Nope, I'm done." I knew that. I knew her routine. She was happy running for herself, to help clear her head. She didn't need the justification of team or a crowd to do something. I had no idea what to do. I wanted to make things right between us, but I wasn't sure at what cost, so I would start with what I should have done months ago. Apologize. "McCallum, She cut me off. "I don't want to talk about it." "He's a jerk," I offered. Her lip curled slightly. "He's your best friend." I wanted to say no, he's not, you are, but I hadn't been acting like a friend to her, let alone a best friend. I opened my mouth, trying to think of something to say to mend the tension between us. Words that came out were, "See you at Thanksgiving." "See you at Thanksgiving?" I should have asked her to punch me right then and there. Maybe she would have knocked some sense into me. Yeah, she began to walk away. "Hey, McCallum," I called after. "Is it okay that we're still coming?" She hesitated briefly. "Of course." While that pause was only a couple seconds, it was long enough for me to know I'd done some real damage. My parents let me drive my new car to Thanksgiving. I should have been. I wonder if he's gonna his license on his birthday. Don't know. Doesn't say. I should have been excited for this rather adult responsibility, but I was nervous. For the first time since I known the Dietzes, I wasn't sure how to act. This needed to be a great Thanksgiving for McCallum. I didn't want to do anything or say anything that would upset her. What I did want was for us to figure some way to get back to normal. To pre-Levi being an idiot. To pre-Ireland. Maybe even to pre-Emily. Adam opened the door with a giant smile. "Happy Thanksgiving!" Guilt stabbed me as I thought about what Keith had said. We all exchanged holiday greetings and unloaded our winter coats and gifts. We brought the centerpiece, pumpkin pie, shrimp for an appetizer, and some adult beverages for the grown-ups. Like beer and wine. Yeah. The amazing smell of the holidays greeted us as we stepped into the living room. Mom set out the shrimp cocktail on the shrimp. Don't eat seafood. On the it's not that bad. Yeah, sorry. Mom set out the shrimp cocktail on the coffee table next to McCallum's offerings. Spiced pecans, bacon roll-ups, and, I was beyond thrilled to see, her cheese ball. Yes! I sat down and grabbed a cracker. Get your own. Adam gently shoved me as we both started helping ourselves to the food. If only Thanksgiving happened in the summer, it would never have been a problem putting on weight for football season. McCallum, Mom greeted McCallum with a giant hug as she entered the room. This all looks wonderful. What can I help you with? Nothing, really. She glanced at her watch. I don't have to worry about anything for at least 30 minutes. Do you want me to be on turkey duty? Mom offered. Turkey's done. I cooked it yesterday. McCallum popped a bacon roll up in her mouth. I did the fancy turkey last time. This year I wanted to do my Aunt Janet's recipe. Cooked the turkey yesterday, then marinated it overnight in gravy. It's so good, Adam. It's so good, Adam said as he took the knife away from me to help himself to more cheese ball. Don't eat the entire cheese ball. You know I've got a ton of food for dinner. Stuffing, wild rice, macaroni and cheese, sweet potato casserole, glazed carrots. I want to cook now. I think there's a green vegetable somewhere in there. I'm not sure. It's a holiday. It all sounds fabulous. Mom rubbed McCallum's arm. You look gorgeous, sweetie. She really did. She had this green dress on that accentuated her red hair. We really missed you. All we keep hearing from Levi is how busy you've been. The cheese ball got caught in my throat. I didn't want the day to begin with me getting caught in a lie. I wanted this to be a fun meal like we always had together. Even though I knew my mere presence was enough to prevent that from happening. I studied McCallum's face to see if she was going to give away the fact that I'd been using excuse after excuse for reasons why McCallum wasn't around. Why we couldn't do Sunday dinners anymore. I kept saying McCallum had this cooking thing or that academic event. But the real reason why was that I was being selfish. I didn't want anything to take away from my time with my guys. I didn't want to be attached to McCallum, like she was some sort of tether weighing me down. But it was my ego, my insecurity about where I fit in that was responsible for my stupidity. McCallum smiled. Yeah, it's been a crazy few months. She took a handful of pecans and headed into the kitchen. I'm gonna see if she needs any help, I said as I got up. I ignored the sarcastic comments from my dad, as if it was pretty clear that the only help I could get anybody in the kitchen would be to exit immediately. McCallum was washing a pot. Her back was to me. I couldn't tell if she was angry. Do you need help? I offered. Her shoulders tensed up. No, I'm okay. Are you sure? I approached the side of the sink and picked up a towel. Suit yourself. She handed me the dripping dish. McCallum jumped up to sit on the kitchen island as he began to dry off the pot. Did you invite Stacy for dessert? She asked. When Mom had talked to McCallum to see what we could bring, McCallum had invited Stacy to join us later when she was done with her family. Nah, I thought it'd be good to be only family. I hesitated. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure how much longer we'll be together. Which is true. Stacy was a cool girl, but I was with her because I thought I should be with her, a cheerleader. That was the most of the varsity athletes did. That was what Keith did. Plus, I thought it'd be easier to have a girlfriend to keep my feelings for McCallum in check. And that wasn't fair to Stacy, or to me. That's too bad, McCallum replied. There was absolutely no emotion on her face. I couldn't tell if she really thought this was bad news or if she was being sarcastic. Usually it was pretty clear when she was being sarcastic, mostly at my expense. A smile started to slowly spread across my lips as I thought back on some of our epic bantering sessions. Guys think they can talk crap, but they've got nothing on McCallum in terms of wit and rapid reflex. She looked confused. You're smiling over your relationship ending? No, I didn't need her to think of me worse than she probably did. I was thinking about the time we went to that Brewers game. And you dropped your hot dog, she finished for me. Yes, and you would not let me forget it because I still ate it. Yeah, I said a little louder than I intended, mostly because I was excited to remind her about a fun time we'd had. But there's no buts about it. It was disgusting. It was only on the floor for 5 seconds. Sorry if I repeated that. It's confusing. She repeated what I kept saying to her that day in a low voice. The one she used always when she intimidated me. Usually it annoyed me when she did that. I was ecstatic to hear it from her now. Remember, I hadn't put anything on it yet, which would have been better off because then you could have at least wiped the dirty ketchup off. Yeah, but you wouldn't stop teasing me about it. Because it was disgusting, she said slowly, like she was talking to a toddler. I started laughing. For the entire game, something happened. The Brewers struck out, or the team scored. McCallum had leaned forward and said, "Well, they may be losing the game, but at least they didn't eat a dirty hot dog." Oh, wow, that must be tough to swallow, although not as tough as a dirty hot dog. McCallum studied me. Well, what about it? What about what? She wrinkled her nose. What about that game? Oh, I said, disappointed seeping through. It was fun. Yeah, she agreed. One of her timers went off. Well, I think I need to ask you to leave. I don't serve dirty food, and with your luck, she let the words hang there. But I was grateful to have her say something teasing to me. McCallum didn't waste her time, or her barbs, on people she didn't care about. Now that I think about it, having McCallum as my best friend prepared me for all the trash talking that could happen in the locker room and the weight room. You call that a rep? Keith taunted Tim as he pushed up the weights on the bench press a week after Thanksgiving. Tim got up and sat down on the mat next to me while I did leg lifts. Let me show you how it's done. Keith laid down on the bench press and started easily pumping the weight up and down. Yeah, you only weigh 50 pounds more than me, dude, Tim reminded me. Dude, I can't help it if I make everything look good. I stayed quiet as I worked on strengthening my lower body. Tim started stretching and asked, "You want to go run some suicides on the court?" The weather had gotten even colder as Christmas approached, so we'd taken to staying inside a workout. We'd hit the weight room above the gymnasium. That's weird, huh? But after Tim was done with basketball practice. Yeah, man, sounds good. I got up and grabbed my gym towel. That's right, you skinny boys can't handle the pressure, so get out of the kitchen, Keith grunted as he finished his last set. That doesn't even make any sense, Tim laughed. Hey, I'm pumped a lot here. Gotta save everything for the game. Nice excuse, I snarked at him. Just gonna repeat that. Nice excuse, I snarked at him. What's your problem, California? Keith got up and came toward me. You've been acting all weird lately. I hadn't been acting all weird. I just stopped laughing at Keith's jokes when they weren't funny. Keith continued. It's like you get a taste of the good life and then can't handle it anymore. But don't worry, this year will fly by, and then we'll be back on the field. Senior year is gonna be awesome. You'll for sure start, and we will be. Are they in grade 11? Yeah, right? No, I don't know. Senior year is gonna be awesome. You'll for sure start, and we will. Senior's gonna be awesome. You'll for sure start, and we will own this place, no question. I shrugged. That sounded nice, but I didn't know what price I'd have to pay for it. For the first time, I wasn't so sure if it would be worth it. I'm telling you, Keith threw me my water bottle. Track is gonna be a shock to your system. You went from playing in front of hundreds screaming your name to 5 people on the benches for track meet? Yeah, but all the important people in my life showed up for that. It was then I realized that maybe McCallum shouldn't be showing up this year. I wouldn't really blame her, but I'd gotten used to having her there cheering me on. She was always there for me when I needed her. I only wished I could say the same for myself. I think I know what this is about. Keith sat down and motioned me to join him on the opposite bench. I obliged because that was what I did. Look, I'm sorry about what happened with your chick friend. McCallum, I corrected him. McCallum, said when he said her name. I've apologized to her, which I'm pretty sure she didn't believe in, even though I was being serious. I practically begged Bukamir to not suspend her. I snapped. I realized that. I didn't know what it was about that girl, but she just gets to you. It's like she doesn't care what anybody thinks about her. No, I thought she doesn't care what you think of her. I don't know. Keith looked thoughtful for a second, then stopped his hands against his knees. Girls, you know? No, I didn't know. Clearly, I had no idea. But I didn't say any of that. I sat there silently until we headed down to the gym and started running suicide drills. What is suicide drills? Like drills that make you feel like you're going to die? Or something? I don't know. You want to suicide yourself? You want to kill yourself because it's so hard? I don't know. I guess. Anyway, Tim and I lined up at baseline under the basket. Keith had his stopwatch out and yelled up for us to start. I sprinted to the free throw line, then back to the baseline, then to the middle of the court, back to the baseline, to the opposite free throw line, back to the base. I couldn't wait to sprint the full length of the court. That was when I excelled. Tim was only a few paces behind me, but I would make it a greater distance in the long stretches. I couldn't hear what Keith was yelling or anything. I focused on my next goal, the next place I was to touch down. Pivot and start it over again. I knew I had Tim heading toward the opposite baseline. All I needed to do was pivot and run back. I bent down to touch the baseline, but when I pivoted, my lower leg stuck up and my upper leg turned. I felt a pop, and before I could process what was going on, I buckled under my own weight and collapsed on the court. Excruciating pain from my knee jolted through my entire body. I grabbed my knee and screamed. I rocked back and forth, holding my leg. Stay still, Levi. Keith was on his knees next to me. Just try to relax. Tim went to get the coach. To get coached. I couldn't stay still. It hurt too much to lie there. My entire body started to shake. Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. Oh God, please don't have like an awful, awful injury. Okay. What is it about guys and having to bench press or outrun each other? Why does everything have to be a competition? Oh, sorry, that was the calendar. What is it about guys and having to bench press or outrunning one another? Why does everything have to be a competition? I don't know. Testosterone? I don't know. That's your excuse for everything. Is it? Well, does it at least work? No. Okay, what about you girls? What about us, the clearly superior gender? Yeah, you're not biased. Of course I'm not. We women are a rational, non-judgmental breed. Are you even being serious right now? What do you think? You know, I sometimes don't know if you're being serious or not. It's one of the flaws of your kind. Yes, because girls never give out mixed signals. You're 100% correct. That's gotta be a first. I sometimes don't even know I bother. See, guys give up on stuff so quickly. We do not. Oh really, do I need to remind you of why we were even talking right now? Who is the bigger person? Ugh, you're right. I know. Girls. Yes, we are made of awesome. And that's all the reading for today. I've been reading for like an hour and a bit, I think. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed those 2 chapters. It wasn't as long as the last one. It's good. And we just have a little bit more to go, I think. Still a little bit out of a chunk, but we'll get there. But yeah, I'm excited for this. This is a really good book. Like, I thought it wouldn't be like amazingly good, but this is like amazingly good. It's really good. It's really well done. So I hope you think that too. And we'll see you next time with another story reading of chapter 15. Bye for now.